We can now go live to Detroit, Michigan to speak to the spokesman for Republicans overseas, Erol Morkoc. Erol, great to have you on the show. So we heard there from Pritzker, there has been a clear clash between red and blue cities. Do cities like Chicago need National Guard troops to step in, or is this move unnecessary and a manufactured performance?
I think to answer the question, the answer could be no if the governors of left-wing or blue states would work with the federal government. So the reason why we're not sending troops into Texas is because the governor of Texas, when we have Tren de Agua terrorist members being detained, they work with us to make sure ICE gets those agents. So when you run your cities purposefully as sanctuary cities for crime, when terrorist organizations are located in your cities, we're using Chicago as an example, just this last weekend, 5 people were murdered. You're getting about roughly 20 murders a week, or roughly in this situation. It's actually a war zone for people who are not rich. If you're rich, you're in the right part of town, sure, you probably will be okay. But simply because these governors refuse to follow their lawful commands from their superiors, the federal government, they're now in a situation where they are in a very light form of insurrection, declaring that we will, like, they had gangs of cars following around ICE agents, boxing them in and honking and ramming them in this last weekend in Chicago. So this speaks to the lawlessness. So if Democrat mayors and governors had kept their states safe and worked with us, just like Republican mayors and governors did, we wouldn't need to be sending these troops. And again, this is a very small detachment. These are, 400 or 500 troops from Texas and maybe 300 or 400 from Illinois, and that's to make people's lives safe. When you go on the streets and you ask people, working class people, they're terrified to go out. Your cars aren't safe, your kids aren't safe. You wouldn't feel safe letting your wife or daughter walk on the street at night, and that's not a safe American. Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America. So despite the recalcitrance and the tears before bedtime, these Democrat governors do not have the cards, they do not have the authority, and simply they have been grandstanding, effectively trying to make a show of force. Meanwhile, their citizens are feeling the brunt of the violence and crime in their cities, and Donald Trump is going to ameliorate that to the best of his abilities.
And Erol, is the deployment of the National Guard a violation of the U.S. Constitution, as well as a federal law that generally prohibits the military from being used to enforce domestic laws? I think this is the big question, is it lawful for Donald Trump to do this, or does it go against the U.S. Constitution and federal law?
It's our assertion that it absolutely is legal. If you look back at the Rodney King riots in 1992, George H.W. Bush is the one who actually invoked it the last time in regards to that lawlessness. Now, everybody who's a decent person has a little bit of squeamishness when they see federal soldiers or troops going into American cities, but that's not in a situation where you can spin things two ways, but in this situation, we see this as a way to liberate these cities from their current state of affairs. The law is behind us. We have legal precedent as well. If you look at the history of America in the Civil War, it was the outsiders who shot at the Union. So while these guys are sort of acting that they're some sort of revolutionaries, they're actually taking on a Confederate ethos. We are the federal government. We are the Union. We are the United States of America, and they are the rebels who are seemingly trying to break away from the Union. And that insurrection and or attempted secession, if it's not done in legislature but done at least through action, is immoral and it's unconstitutional, it's anti-American, and those people are American citizens before they're Illinois citizens or Chicago residents. And I think that's the most important thing. Donald Trump is here to take care of the American citizen, and he's doing that, and he has the law behind him.
Okay, so he has the law behind him. He's there to take care of American people. And we've seen the National Guard deployed in various places in Portland, LA, and Washington, D.C. How have these cities transformed? And do American people think their cities are becoming military sites, or does that not really bother them?
It certainly bothers them. It bothers them probably to the same extent of all of the crime that is escalated in all of these major cities, all of our major cities, by the way, that are Democrat run completely without exception. I think the best use case that I could point to is where Trump has the most authority, and that's the District of Columbia. And there you've seen an incredible reduction in everything from homicides to violent assaults to robberies to all the things that make walking on the street inconvenient or unsafe. When you get off the train at Union Station, yes, it's kind of bizarre to be met by a APC and U.S. military, but the last time I got off that train, I was met by people doing crack cocaine and some dubious looking characters on the corner who are tugging at their waistband. So I'd rather see American servicemen, at least in the short term, while we try to get a handle on this thing, step up and do what they have been constitutionally sworn to do, which is protect and defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And as these domestic agencies like Antifa have become designated terrorist organizations, like Tren de Aragua has put bounties, $10,000 for kidnapping, $10,000 for killing ICE agents, I think we're more than justified. And while the American people, myself included, aren't happy to see this, this is the result, this is the symptom of the sort of poison that open borders, sanctuary cities, and leftist woke ideology has brought America's cities to the point of no return. And now we're tasked with saving them. And it's a thankless task, by the way. No good deed goes unpunished, but we will do the right thing because that's what we were tasked to do.
Erol, I just want to say the Supreme Court is also back in session and will be assessing many of President Trump's executive orders, including changes to the 14th Amendment regarding birthrights. Are we likely to see this approved, do you think?
That's a really big question, and I don't think it's likely. I think it's a little bit unlikely. It is enshrined in the Constitution. I happen to have found it to be a really cool thing that we had. It was designed originally to make sure that slaves and the children of slaves would be U.S. citizens. It was not designed to create multi-million person chain migration into the United States, which it has been turned into. So it sort of was a cool randomizer that America had, where you could have these random people who could become citizens, but all of a sudden it became exploited and misused, and now it's become a national security threat. And I think that maybe is the best point, but I would say it's 50-50. There is a huge argument for getting rid of it. I personally would get rid of it. I think it's been manipulated and used poorly. It's sad that we have to get rid of it, but there are still people who are going to fight for that originality. Unfortunately, anybody arguing that is ignoring the fact that it was only designed for the children of slaves, and using it further, as this has been done, has created a huge amount of downward pressure on the working class in America who are affected by illegal immigration. Again, it's them who feel the pain, not the rich guys on television, not the bankers, not the lawyers, not the talking heads. The people in the bottom 25% feel the pain of illegal immigration, and that's who we're hoping to help.
Erol Morkoc, a spokesman for Republicans overseas, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.